I'll make you introduce yourself one more time.
That'll work.
Give me just 1 second. What's going on, geeks? We are here, and I'm trying to get everything set up so that we see everything. I am a one-man show. All right, we are actually live this time. Sorry, I just had Trevor give you all an introduction, and we wasn't live. So we're going to make Trevor do it again as we add Thomas from Fishing the DMV. What's up, Thomas?
Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing?
We're good. We're going to go ahead and let Trevor introduce himself, and then you are next.
All right. Well, I'm Trevor Wagner. YouTube channel is at Trevor Wagner. It's basically my channel is about faith and fishing. And other than that, I am a teacher by trade. I actually teach the IT stuff, all the stuff that Geek does for a living. I teach all the younger generations how to do that as well. I'm a military veteran. I spent 14 years in the military. Married, I have a small army myself. I have 5 children. I have 3 adult children and then 2 that are still in the house. One just turned 11, and I have a 7-year-old son as well. And fishing is a family affair. We take them all out fishing all the time. If you ask my daughter her favorite story, she'll tell you a story about how I caught her pole that she lost to a fish into the water, ended up pulling her pole, the fish, and half a tree in with it as well. So
you caught a tree pounder, a pole.
I caught a tree pounder that had the fish attached to the pole, which was quite fun. And I love tournament fishing. I fish out of a kayak, not a boater. Kayak fishing is the way for me. Just what I prefer. So, thank you, Stephen. I try.
All right, Mr. Fishing the DMV. Listen, this is the brain behind the Basscast podcast, and of course his own podcast where he gets into things deeper than he uses words I can nor pronounce or spell. So if you really want to get into the ins and outs of bass fishing, Fishing the DMV is your guy.
Bless you for the kind words. I wish my wife spoke that highly of me. You guys, Fishing the DMV, it's a play on DC, Maryland, and Virginia. If you grew up in Northern Virginia, that's just the term for it. I cover everything basically from Pennsylvania through North Carolina at a very granular level. Fishing reports, biology reports, all that stuff. Just kind of how is my niche, and it has expanded to where, I'm one of the top 50 nationally ranked outdoor fishing shows. It's been a wild ride. It really is. And this is just what I do right now. So I'm really happy to be here.
Well, as you can tell, I'm choking on my own
This geek is dying.
So listen, this is really informal. And I don't do lives a whole lot because I am still working the swing shift, as Brent says. So happy you could jump into one. I'm going to say hi to some people. What's up, Mike? I got some Facebook stuff, but apparently it's not bringing your all's names over, oddly enough. First time I've ever done that on live. So put your names in there and I'll say hi to you. Stephen, of course, he says hi, Trevor. Sterling, Ruby Skulls. Is that a band name? I don't know. Brian, what's up, my buddy Brian Lee? Of course, Trevor's in here. Chris, I am. You didn't see that, did you, Thomas?
No. I didn't see that.
Just a little.
Did you see it? Curtis actually won a box, and Curtis, you have got to get me your house number or the P.O. box. I've got the town. Don't put it in here, brother. Don't put it in here. Anyway, Walker's in here. look here. There's Brian Carter. Oh, wait, hey, look. There's also Brian Carter.
Oh,
What
look
do
at
you
him.
know?
Carter. Woo.
Look at
The whole crew's
that.
back.
What's up, everybody?
So, can you turn up Fishing the DMV? You might
I
want-
just did. I know
Crank it up.
StreamYards likes to like auto correct it, so I just undid that setting. Let me know if this is better.
I don't pay for it. I'm cheap, so I'm definitely not paying for it. I don't do it enough.
Good.
First ever Geek Live, so we got a lot of. Listen, guys. Again, I am super sorry. I don't get a chance.
Lure
and-
colors.
Curtis, I do still have it. I've got your town. I need your house number or your PO box, brother. Number. Show me some lure colors. Well, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know if I'm gonna dig around back here, but I mean, I guess we could do it another way. All right. So anyway, listen, I'm gonna let Brian introduce himself. He is the host, the brainchild of the Basscast, which I co-host. Thomas from Fishing the DMV and Trevor. He's all kind of brought us together. So he goes up every Monday night, and I'll let Brian do a better job than me at explaining.
All right, guys. So yes, every Monday morning at 5 a.m. Basscast Radio drops. It's pretty cool how it's all come together. And it's a really great show if you haven't listened. Thomas kind of does our biology reports and keeps up with what's happening in your local waterways. Geek drops the tips and the techniques that he's been learning and teaching you all throughout the Bass Geek channel. So hopefully everyone has subscribed that is watching this live. And Thomas Bass Geek hooked me up with Trevor, which is really freaking cool. That's a cool thing about this. Trevor's not local. All the rest of us are within a few hours of each other. Trevor's in Texas. So Trevor does Before the First Cast, which is our 15-minute show, give or take, that airs on Friday mornings at 5 a.m. So there's 3 great shows on Basscast Radio that you guys can listen to that drop Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So it's lots of great content out there for you guys to listen to bash, not bash, whatever you guys want to do. But we just love making it and talking about bass fishing, tournament bass fishing. And me and Geek both all just got back from the Bassmaster Classic. So it was great getting to see Geek and Mike at the Classic. So
apparently there's 2 Brian Carters in the world, and so you guys can never meet in person because if you touch, the world will implode into a black hole. So
this is crazy. There are 4 Brian Carters where I live.
Good.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of Brian Carters.
Don't
Yeah.
cross the
Are they all
street.
your brothers? Like,
No, none at all. It's kind of crazy. It really is. I did finally get to meet one of them, but yeah, there's like 4 of us here. So it's quite interesting.
Crazy.
Anyway, guys, make sure you go check out the Basscast. Again, it drops on Monday.
Basscast Radio.
Yeah, you can watch it on YouTube, basscastradio.com. Is it still .com? Basscastradio.com?
No, it's just the Basscast Radio for that.
Basscast.com. And don't unsubscribe from me, because unlike this channel, I do talk a lot about my opinions, and sometimes I get heated. And hopefully we can all be adults and agree to disagree if you don't agree with me. I will still like you, so pretty please like me back.
Come back, please.
Oh no, let's listen. We're gonna save this because that's exactly what we just got done talking about. And
So we're ready to go.
I thought the classic was wonderful, and I'll leave it at that. It was fun. I was there. I thought it was great.
Yeah. What are the ground rules?
Got to hang out with a lot of people. But really, we're here tonight. And Brian does have to go. Brian, you just let us know when you're going to go.
Yeah, I'm going to run till the battery dies, which probably won't be
Okay.
much longer, but we're going to run till then.
All right.
Yeah. So he'll just disappear into the abyss eventually.
Yes.
He is a robot. He's talking about his battery. So
Yes. No, actually, the battery on the computer, because I'm not plugged in.
he's. I'm not going to sing that song. I'll get demonetized. I thought it was nuts. That is great. Why has no one used that yet? So let's talk about spring patterns. We got a good wide array. Again, Thomas is from, upstate up in Virginia, around the Maryland, DC, all that area. So we're going to talk about what's coming. Trevor, of course, he's out in North Texas.
Yep, the panhandle of Texas, which is that square up in the north part of Texas.
So you just missed me. Hey, wait, see?
Kansas is right above us.
Yeah, Oklahoma, Kansas is one of those square states. So you missed just being your own place, like
Oklahoma, New Mexico are on the sides. Kansas is up here. We're right here.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about spring patterns, and we'll start. We will start with fishing the DMV. Tell me what is going on right now. What are you in? I assume everybody's in pre-spawn, even though we had 5 inches of snow Monday and it was 75 degrees on Sunday when I left the Bassmaster Classic.
Yeah. So in my area of the country, we have tidal water, and we're in river smallmouth central, Shenandoah, Susquehanna, Upper Potomac, all that through there. And it's fascinating because there's the duality there where 3 weeks ago, the Susquehanna River was frozen solid. And now it's got running water, and we're in pre-spawn. And pre-spawn there is kind of funny when you're talking about river smallmouth as an example, because as soon as you get ice out and you hit about 48 degrees, you're in full power fishing crankbait type of mode. And when it comes to the Potomac, we can't really talk about that because of the pipe that exploded. But let's say that didn't happen, and you get out there. We are about 2 to 3 weeks away from that really heating up. The spawn-ish time for the tidal Potomac really is May, like late April, early May. Once the lily pads and the spatter dock really come in is when they're going to really start spawning heavily in that stuff. So backtrack from there. We're in like early pre-spawn mode right now on the tidal part of the river.
So what kind of what areas on the river are you looking for right now? Give us some sort of little details, like what are they beginning to move up? Let's say we're getting ready to head into a little warm front this week. So tell us a little bit of what the bite is, what the bait setup is that you're going to be looking for.
For tidal fishing, it is the biggest meat and potatoes. I know we just got done with the Pinging Minnow Classic, but chatterbait, buzzbait, crankbait, all that stuff will be working. Places to go: Pohick Bay, Mattawoman is another great place. These are just the certain creeks that everyone knows about when it comes to tidal fishing that they're always going to be in because it has enough water into it that they can winter and they can also spawn in them. So go look at Mattawoman Creek, Pohick Bay, Belmont Bay is another really good one. Those are the 3 big bays that you always see the Bassmaster out of. It's because that's where all the fish are. They can live there year round. When it comes to the river smallmouth, that's a whole other can of worms. They're going to be spawning in any kind of slack water they can find. That's the biggest thing. And the bigger the slack water area that you find, the more of a spawning habitat you're going to be to where there can be a couple more fish in there. But I have seen them spawn behind half a tire sticking out of the water, and you can have a 4-pounder back there. That's so kind of keep that in mind. Now the Suskie's a little different. The Suskie is known, and this is hopefully, please, all my Suskie guys don't give me death threats. They go up into the creeks. They'll go up into all the creeks. There's about 100,000 creeks in the Susquehanna River. If you guys don't, Google map the Suskie. It is stupidly massive how long and big that river is. And so really getting into the back to as many creeks as you can where you're going to have that little bit warmer water, that's going to turn on first. So go check that out. And again, meat and potatoes, tubes, Ned rigs for when they get on the beds, or chartreuse crankbait is one of my favorite things. Burn through there, find them real quick.
Before we go on, got to give a shout out to Gramps. What's going on, Gramps? He's doing a lot better. Got to hang out with him and run into him, bump into him a couple times. If you guys haven't seen his channel, he's getting ready to start getting geared up and start back to fishing, getting better every day. Happy to see you doing well, brother.
Yeah, that's
now,
awesome.
Let's go to Trevor. Trevor, so you've got a good array of different styles of lakes in your area. You've got some highlands reservoirs. You've got some, I won't really call them lowlands, but lower-ish reservoirs. So what are you looking at? What's
All right,
the
so
current bite going into the next bite?
all right, so where I'm at, the 3 lakes that we have are one big lake that's by me. It also is like, for some of you guys don't know, it's one of the lakes that
Oh, Trevor's froze up.
I think he did.
I agree,
freeze.
Trevor.
I think he froze up
good
early.
smallmouth
too.
fish has.
There he comes.
Yeah.
He's back.
There he goes. All right, so with the smallmouth, it also has largemouth population, but it's also known for walleye. Now, the thing with this is right now, I was on there last weekend and the water temperature was still in that mid 40s. Depending on where I was at, I was anywhere from 42 to 46 degrees. It is crystal clear, 70-foot deep. And so at this point, they're still off. They're kind of moving in. So I saw a few of them in some of the secondary points moving up, but they are not moving into the creeks yet. They're still kind of off a little bit. And of course, having that cold front come in Sunday, yes, we got hit with the cold front too. We went from, like Geek said, we were in the 80s, strolling good, and then all of a sudden we got down into the 20s again. So I don't know. I guess we're not doing spring. We're just going straight summer to whatever it is.
Yeah.
So the big lake hasn't moved up, and then I have another lake that's close by, and its max depth is like 14 feet. So it's more of like that lowland kind of thing, but it is a reservoir. It's just been depleted so much. That happens with the West Texas lakes. And those fish that water temperature was already in the 50s. They're already moving up. I already seen all the bucks were already moving in, starting to do their bed stuff. So everything's great. Now, this weekend, where I'm heading, I'm going down to Possum Kingdom, fishing my first kayak tournament on our West Texas trail. In Possum Kingdom, their water temperature's already in the low to mid 60s. It's going to be 90. Wow. It's going to be 90 degrees this weekend. It's like 5 hours from my house, due south. So I'm looking on everything that everybody's saying they're already in spawn mode. They're already up in the creeks. You look at all the areas, so it's going to be a lot of creek arm fishing for me instead of being on the main lake. I might be able to hit the main lakes early in the morning before sunrise as they're starting to like kind of move around that area. And then I'm pretty much going to be back in the creeks, hopefully shallow enough where I could throw some top water over them. Because I don't know if you guys have never done some, you're in that spawn time. Sometimes those top waters, they could come up and they get pretty aggressive at those top water baits, just sitting there lurking over their heads, and you're just twitching it above their head. They kind of go nuts. So I'm really hoping I could get on that bite instead of just pulling a lizard through or a jig through. I love top water.
Ask you too many questions because you got an upcoming tournament there. We don't want to give too much away, but do any of those lakes, probably the more shallow lake, are they heavy grass, any sort of real grass in any of those lakes you were talking about?
The Greenbelt Lake that I talked about, that's like 14 feet. That one is, it has pretty good grass in it. It's got some milfoil, a little bit of hydrilla. Where I'm going in Possum Kingdom, there's pockets of grass, but it's not it's like you're fishing in the desert. It's like if you watch a lot of like the fishing taking place like at Lake Mead or Lake Havasu, Mojave Lake, that's really what a lot of the West Texas lakes are like. If you ever watch any of the old Bassmaster Classics, the first tournament was at Lake Amistad this year. So that's kind of pretty much what our West Texas lakes are. OH Ivy's kind of built the same way. There's not a lot of grass. There's a lot of tree stumps, cedar trees, like salt cedar trees, rocks. And that's pretty much what you're getting. You'll get some grass, but it's just in pockets.
Gotcha. Now, do they flood control any of those? Like here, man, they drop our lakes like 20, 25 feet, some of them 30 and 40 feet during the winter.
The heat. Ours is pretty much controlled. Ours is pretty much controlled by the drought season.
We call that a drought.
Yeah. So that's we don't have those river systems running through where you're like, there's a dam, but the dam isn't stopping anything from coming in.
Gotcha.
We're not locking through. The hard part about where I am, like this is why I fell in love with Gunnersville when I went out there and fished, is I don't have like river systems here. I'm used to just
Yeah.
fishing these big reservoirs that are like pretty much landlocked in. You might have a little trickle of a stream coming in.
No,
And
that's
so
that's
going
what that's what's on my side, like northeast Tennessee. Once you get down to Knoxville, now that's when you get into your Tennessee River, your river system with the locks.
Yeah, and I love Gunnersville, man. I learned to fish that fishery, and I learned to fall in love with fishing grass because the first time I went to Gunnersville, I was like, "What the hell is this stuff in the water? I'm not used to having to rip stuff through this grass. What is this?"
Yeah.
I used to throw it I could throw a crankbait anywhere I want and not have to like yank it out of a bunch of grass. So that was a learning experience getting from where I fished to an actual grass lake.
I'm going to say hey to a couple of people. What's going on, Bucktail? Brian.
Yes.
I don't know, not that Brian, the other Brian Carter.
Okay.
Oddly enough. But if you know anything about these lakes, Percy Priest and Center Hill, I don't know a whole lot about those lakes. But I know enough, I've done enough map study on those two lakes that if you give me a situation water temp, I could probably tell you what I would do pretty easily, at least finding them. Dave, man, what is going on? I want to say a big hi to Dave. He's a big supporter. I appreciate you all. Let's see. Bass fishing, what is going on? That is BA. What is going on, man? And so now, to talk a little bit, and I don't want to give away too much because we've got a really good video coming out on a jerkbait pattern that happens this time of year. Before the cold front went rolling in Monday and Tuesday. So here, the last time I was out on the lakes, we were out a couple weeks ago, and we had 46-degree water temps. We stayed up the lake, a little bit of color to the lake, so the lake was, probably 3-4 foot visibility there. Caught them in the middle of the bluffs. They weren't on the bluff ends. They were still on those channel swing bluffs. Something I always say, if you can find those areas, you got that channel swing and you got two spawning creeks or, pockets on each side. That's something you want to look for. So that's always going to be loaded. Now, we went out last week, right before we went to the Classic, and we started noticing that the males have moved just inside that first stretch inside the pocket. The water temps had moved up to, I think, 51-ish, maybe 50. And so they had moved into the inside of the creeks, and they were staged on, any sort of lay down timber and anything that, they could find with that wood or, I don't even call them secondary points because they're just a little rock section sticking out of a wall. And they, we caught some bucks there on the bass, but what we really noticed was that still in the middles, maybe if you broke it down in halves, they were starting to make the move toward the bluff ends. There was still a lot of shad there. Some of the shad had moved up into the creeks, but everything we found by scoping, those bass were smaller, or they were crappie and bluegill. That's what we caught on a jerkbait. So what ended up happening is they actually were pulled off of the bluff in open water, say 20 to 40 feet, 30 to 40 feet away, maybe more, we'll say 30 to 60 feet off the bluff wall, especially in the morning, 10 foot down. And so what ended up happening there is you could get out there and you could throw an 1/8 ounce or a jerk bait. And, we caught maybe a good one. And that was kind of where the big ones were still staging. We found a couple that were kind of in the mouths. And this brings me to a question for you guys. For us, because the lake is so steep, so deep. What ends up happening when you have a cold front, a lot of people, you hear a lot of pros and a lot of anglers talk about how the bass push back.
Mhm.
But for where we're at, they less push back and more slide down. So what ends up happening is we were catching them 10 feet deep, throughout the day. The sun comes up, we get a bluebird sky dead slick calm, they push down to 20. That same sort of thing, depending on how cold, how long it lasts, really, really kind of is what they do during that cold front. So instead of being 10 feet, they might slide to 20, 30, even 40 feet down and set against that rock in those banks. They may pull out still in the mornings, or if it's a sunny day, and feed on those shad, because those shad love that radiant heat, whether it's cloudy or whether it's just straight sun. So do they pull back, or do they slide down when those cold fronts hit you guys?
We were hearing it at the Classic, guys, because they were dropping water at the Classic. And a lot of the anglers, if you guys listen to the interviews we did, that they were talking about the fish were pulling back, and that kind of messed up a lot of the, there was two different patterns a lot of the anglers were fishing, and they were, the semi-stained water, and then, like I said, the off bite 10 to 15 feet, like you were talking about, Geek. And those were the ones that you saw were like in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
But the ones who were hoping for that bank bite were the ones you saw at the bottom of the list.
Yeah. What about you, Thomas? You're, especially because you're fishing that river system, you're in that flats or that flatter, shallower water up there generally. Where do those bass go? When is there a certain cover, or are there a certain bottom? What do they do when those major cold fronts hit?
When there's major cold fronts, and generally speaking, I personally think, depending on the stage, if we're not dealing with water movement, that is a big key, because if water goes up or down, that does affect them. But if everything stays the same, in my humble opinion, a lot of those fish will camp. I think once they start progressing in their spawning cycle, the closer you get to D-Day, they're not going to necessarily move all the way back out to a creek. Now, there are asterisks, because if you have a blueback kind of thing, or you have a pelagic species that act more like striper, Bugs Island, Lake Murray, Hartwell, I think that kind of will be a little bit of a change of pace. But if we're just talking a normal, let's say, largemouth bass, once they get back into that cove in that pre-spawn mode, I think they're going. Another thing that's going to be interesting with the BFL this week on Smith Mountain Lake is I think we're generally getting rising water conditions for the most part because of all the rain, and it's been low all year. And
I was about to say that the lake has moved up. It's 792.86, and it has gone up over the last couple of days.
And I've talked to a bunch of friends over the winter time and have some great conversations that last year you had relatively stable high water conditions. The lake was clear, and it was really good for scoping. I think having a low lake with a lot of water coming into it, I think we could see a great spinnerbait bite or a crankbait bite coming into it. So there's always asterisks when we say well, what happens with this? There are so many variables you have to take into it. Whereas the Classic, they're pulling water out, and guess what? Those fish aren't going to be on dry land. If you have rising conditions I remember, was it 2 years ago, they were back in Tennessee, and you had the flight-sided crankbait that was hot, but then you had the conditions that kind of lined up for that as well. So I think personally, when you go into it, don't look at it as a black or white, one variable only. There are always multiple variables to it.
And a lot of them were throwing that Fritz side.
Yep. Yep.
Good little flat-sided bait. Now, what about you, Trevor? What do you see most of the time let's just pick one of your favorite lakes that you fish.
All right, so I'll pick the big lake. Yeah, because I fish there all the time. Now, I'll look at the big lake that I talk about, Lake Meredith, because it's the one I fish the most. It's the closest to my house, but it's also the deepest and the clearest lake that's there. So mine, when the cold fronts do come in, they do kind of do like what yours do, Bass Geek. They just kind of slide down. because we do have shelves where they can get up into, and they'll just like sit off of that shelf and just wait. And then when the cold front comes, they just kind of slide down a little bit. They'll go down 5-10 feet, depending on where it is, and then depending on the time of day and what heats up will depend on how they move, and go from there. And then if they've already moved back in the pockets, because there is quite a lot of like splintering that comes out in certain areas, and I've noticed if I could catch them in those pockets when the cold fronts hits, kind of like what Thomas said, they kind of don't leave that pocket area. They might slide a little bit out the pocket, but they're not leaving that general area. They kind of stay in that area now as they're there. And again, it just depends on what part of the lake I'm hitting at the time will depend on what they're doing. Now, I do like some of my ledge fishing, but when I'm going ledge fishing, I know if it's after a cold front, I need to slide back a little bit and just go straight down, because that's where they're going to be.
To piggyback on what Trevor said, there's this weird time period when you factor in the days get to a certain length, the temperature and stuff, where it's about breeding. It's just like the rut.
Yeah.
Like their focus is fattening up to get to spawning. Yeah. That is their criteria. Unlike any other time of year, there's a biological instinct in them that they have to go shallow. And I think there is a factor that we don't know about, that once they hit a certain threshold of like, we've gone this far, like they just kind of almost like, I feel like pause, like they're not thinking clearly, and they just sit in the ether waiting for conditions to improve.
Yeah. And that's exactly what happens. Luckily, where I'm at, you have deep water, 8-foot power poles in the backs of creeks does me no good. I'll still float off. So there's deep water. 8-foot power poles were a waste of money.
Yeah, I'm with you, geek. People talk about putting those micro poles on the back of their kayak. I'm like, the pole would fall straight through the bottom. I wouldn't even touch the bottom. Like,
I pretty much, like, if I get into a flat spot where I'm fishing, I can pretty much I could shove the skeg into the water if I wanted to. If it's, it's just kind of how it is. But and I think you guys are saying the same thing. They don't really move back. They don't slide back out of the situation. In the deeper water where I'm at, they just slide down. They get down there, and where that water temp is less affected by that wind current. And like you said, Thomas, anything from sunlight to watercolor. If we had a big snow here, so that runoff, that melt. We've had a lot of rain the past few days, so it's keeping the lake a little more dirty. Now, they're not raising for summer pool, so they're actually dropping, but they're not dropping really fast, so the water's still a little bit stable. So, it's there. Now, and this is a good breakdown right here, Percy Priest. The water was 50 today and up about 3 feet. Now, one of the first questions I'm going to ask you, because I pretty much live and die by the rule of 3. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but if that water just raised 3 feet from yesterday to today, I'm probably going to fish the old shoreline where it is. I'm not really going to move up or fish where those bass are until it's 2-3 days later. 50, you're right there in 50 where those bass are going to be pretty active. The feed bag should be tied on at 50, 51. I don't know, Brian, if you scope, but I know on that lake, they should be pulling up in those ditches, in the creek areas, the bays on that lake. It's set up a little bit different. It's a little more, it reminds me a little more of a river system lake, kind of like the Tennessee River. That's the sort of things that I'd be looking for out there. I'd have my A-rig, fuzzy dice. I'd have my jerk bait, and if you, depending on where you're at in the water clarity, in the wind, I'm going to have some things like some crankbaits and that sort of stuff. A wobblehead. Everybody forgets about the good old wobblehead. Go ahead, Thomas.
Now, it's scope and everything has just been fascinating from just a behavioral standpoint, where before all this stuff, that adage was like, would they would move back. And really, from what I've seen, I think what happens when those conditions get wonky, those fish just shut off. I think those fish that are shallow, when the conditions they get hit with that real big change, they shut off. But then in the day, we would back off and catch them, and we would think, oh, well, they moved. No, that's a different group. That's either one that's further on into the or later on into the winter, or really early pre-stage. So I think what you need to start, I think what helped me is to context which of like, okay, so what I'm going to be targeting during these conditions is not the shallow fish. I want to look for fish that are later on in the cycle, that they're still in the winter habits, they're still deep, and target that group, because they're probably going to be a little bit more stable.
Yeah, and I think that's for me, I mean, I think that's a good thing. Once they start moving, they pretty much got deep water anywhere they go.
Yeah, for your places.
Yeah. But that's good to know because I don't fish a lot of lowerland lakes, so that's really good information.
What's the shallowest lake you fished? Is it like above or below 500 feet?
Average?
Yeah.
So South Holston, I think the deepest in it's like 2 something. And it probably averages probably 100 and something.
God, that's an ocean.
Probably, I mean, it's probably, as I call it, my top secret Lake P. So, but it's literally a vertical lake up on a mountain. It does actually freeze over during the winter, and the deepest spot in it's 50 feet, and it probably averages 30. But literally, it's so steep that it's in a lot of places you can almost cast. A lot of places you can flat out cast from one side to the other, but
wow,
in the middle of it, in the creek channel, still going to be 28, 30 feet, down. Wow. And so, I mean, it's steep. Like they'll spawn on the main lake on a ledge where it's washed out, like that big, where that's this deep. So
you poor man.
I mean, I'm used to it. It's a challenge. It's different. The one thing that's probably the toughest, Center Hill's the same way, the creek channel. I mean, it can get, that's a big, steep, deep lake. But it's, I think the biggest challenge is learning how to weight baits, especially jerk baits, to get down. Because, I'm throwing, I'm catching all of them on a 110, a mega bass 110 plus one junior. And, we're having to put 6 suspend dots under its throat to get it at the right fall rate, to get down to 15, 20, 25 feet. And even then, once you weight it just right to get it down there to where it begins to slow because of the water pressure, that's what they were wanting. I threw an A-rig a whole lot, but they were wanting that sort of vertical or horizontal movement as opposed to, during the winter time. I know a lot of you geeks seen this. Yeah, Watauga Lake is 280 feet. So that's a big Highlands. That's one of the other lakes that I like to fish. So it's man, I totally lost my damn train of thought right there. I seen Watauga. Watauga. Yeah, I love that lake.
Hey, I appreciate you letting me come on, Geek. I'm gonna roll out.
Brian, do a shout out before you go.
All right, guys, don't forget Basscast Radio. We drop it every Monday morning at 5 a.m. And Trevor, before the first cast, drops on Friday morning at 5 a.m. Make sure you guys check it out. And we also have another show called Bass Vault, which is an AI version podcast, which is content that we have created. The basscast.com has created themselves or has been sent to us. And that gets dropped on Wednesday mornings at 5 a.m. So 3 great shows for you guys to check out. The basscast.com will be on Smith Mountain Lake this weekend at the BFL, the only BFL on Smith Mountain Lake this weekend. So it'd be great to see everyone. So that means we're going to have to do some traveling this year. So please like, share, repeat. It helps pay the bills more than you guys can ever think. So appreciate you guys, and thank you for letting me be on, Geek.
Hey, man, anytime. Appreciate you letting me be part of the podcast.
Yes, sir. Always.
Be
Bye,
good,
everybody.
man. Get some rest. Now, I do have to say, shout out to my lovely wife for being on here, and she
It's
said
cold
it's
now.
cold now.
It's cool.
Bless you
now.
for putting up with him.
And then my mom and dad, who oddly enough are watching. So,
Aww, that's so
you
cute.
know, weird. And in the comment section, no questions to my mom and dad. I'll tell you, I will block them immediately.
Well, speaking of a wife, my wife did get home, and I
Yes.
apologize to your community. I would love to
No,
be
it's
back
all right.
on.
We appreciate you being on, hanging out with us. So only the cool kids are left now, Trevor. That's
Yes.
Highlands anglers, man.
Yes. Guys, talk about your Grand Canyon lakes that are 500 feet deep with no shoreline stuff.
I want to know because you can't be that far. Like, have you fished like Lake Mead? By the way, wait. Shout out your podcast and your channel and all that too. Before you
It's Fishing the DMV, guys. Click on any lake in Virginia, North Carolina, Maryland. I probably have done an episode on it. Go check it out. I would love to be back for another live stream. We go full in depth on all this stuff because, guys, at least where I'm at in Virginia, we're finally not frozen. It's weird that in Texas, you're like, oh, they're spawning. Like, oh, wow, we see icebergs floating down the river. So
Yeah.
it's so crazy that difference in region. But spring is almost here around the whole United States. So go out and go fishing.
Yeah, it is.
Amen to that. Go
Peace,
fishing and have
everybody.
fun. Brother, be good. We appreciate you.
Thanks.
See you, Thomas.
And then there were two.
There was two.
The
The IT guys are still in the house, so you know.
That's right. The IT.
We're used to being late all the time.
We're always the ones that are first in, last out. So that's what we do.
That's correct.
So,
Yeah.
have you fished? Have you got to fish any of the lakes out that way? Like me, like I don't know how close those are to you, but like those
So
really truly desert lakes.
before I moved to Texas, where I am now, I actually lived in Bullhead City, Laughlin, Nevada. So
Oh.
I have fished Lake Mojave and I have fished Lake
Oh.
Havasu, the Colorado River. I kind of grew up on the Colorado River. So, but when I grew up there, I was not a black bass fisherman. I was a striper fisherman because the Colorado River has some big striper. We're talking 20-pound striper. I think the record's like 30 something pounds pulled out of the river. So I was constantly catching 10 to 12-pound striper on the river. So I learned to fight fish real hard. Like that's if you never fought a striper before in a river, and that Colorado River moves, it's got a lot of current. So.
Was something with some real current in it. I couldn't imagine.
There's no such thing. I'm talking like my sinkers we're talking, 10-ounce sinkers, throwing it out there.
That's
just
what
to
I
get it to
use
the
as
bottom.
a jig head minnow. Now wait a minute, there you go. Now you're not frozen. Okay. I think it was just my screen. Yeah, that's what I use for a jig head minnow. I catch those smallmouth 80 feet deep. I mean, it's same thing. No, I'm kidding.
You gotta use that. You gotta use that heavy weight to get it down there.
I will tell you this. I don't remember. I think it was like, and this is in a video somewhere, geeks. You can go check it out. We went out. I think the video was titled like 30 pounds and something, 30-pound bag or something. And we went out and we were fishing North Lake and throwing jig head minnows, just trying to figure out what was going on. And, on an 8-pound test and a itty bitty jig head minnow, a 16-pound striper is a ride.
Ooh, that's peeling some drag right there.
It's a minute. So
that's
you just got to get on the trolling motor and chase.
Yeah, I can.
want my jig head minnow back.
Talk about jig head minnows. So I fish jig head minnow. I use the live sonar. Yes, guys, you could hate all you want, but if you're a tournament fisherman and you're not using it, then you're behind.
They're pretty good on live sonar.
Yeah, you're gone. I found I actually have better. I am better at using a jerk bait with my forward-facing sonar than I am just strolling, a minnow.
Yeah.
I tend to get a better I tend to be able to see it better and actually watch the reaction that they're doing to the jerk bait
Yeah.
to know just to be a better target for them. I've learned so much on, some people like they see that bass coming up and what do? They stop, they freeze, they're like,
Yeah.
oh, what's it going to do? I found that a lot of times when they're coming up on it, they're going to get it. Just keep working it.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
just move it a little bit faster and they'll just wallow.
Well, there's 2 techniques and then 3 that's kind of built my confidence in a jig head minnow. And, if any of you guys, hold on, I got to put this out. 22 inches. No,
that's nuts. That's crazy.
No,
thank you.
No,
nope.
No.
We get snow in my part of Texas. I want nothing to do with 22 inches. I'm sorry.
I just want to see the piles of snow, like if you shoveled out like a path to get, to the mailbox. 5 feet. What were they? But so here, there's one technique that kind of got its start. And you really hear me talk about it because neither one of these techniques were forward-facing sonar techniques. They were, well before that, and one of them is tight lining. So you take a minnow style bait. One of the favorites were the gulp minnows, and I call it, cheaters floating fly. And so you just take that on a. I know guys that throw it on 3-pound test for, 5 and 6 pound smallmouth. No, I'm throwing it on 8.
Yeah.
But literally, you throw it to the bank and you just literally let it hit bottom and lift. And then you just start shaking and let it pendulum down. If you're against a bluff wall, you get in tight on the bluff wall. And as I always say in the videos, you want it to touch bottom, but not continuously be on the bottom. And so, you're reeling too fast if you never touch bottom, too slow if you touch bottom, if you're always on it. The other is the Demiki. So believe it or not, and I did a video on this a while back, all 2D sonar has a live component. Now, depending on what brand you have, you can call it a flasher. Honestly, it's basically the flasher version of a 2D. And I think Humminbird called it RTS, real time something window. I don't remember what Garmin calls it. If you guys know, tell me out there. And you can actually watch your bait drop in that cone and watch the fish come up and interact with it. And that's a vertical presentation. Now, what a lot of you guys might not know, before even Panoptics come out, there were several of us who were running 2 transducers and pointing one out that would allow you to have that live, and you could actually throw out there and see bass a little bit farther away from you. We didn't point them directly out. It was a little bit down. But that was something that was actually being done well before forward-facing sonar. I think, really, I've often wondered how much of that, kind of maybe being heard, I don't know how much, was brought from the military straight that way, but kind of gave that ideal to people, manufacturers. And then, of course, swim baits, because like you just said, I've always, if there's one thing on God's green earth I feel like I'm good at, it's the above average to average size, those 5, 6, 7 inch soft plastic swim baits. And that's something, just like you said, when I start dropping a minnow, I start shaking it while the line's free, while the bell's open, because I want it to be shaken before it gets down there in case they see it. Don't stop what you're doing. Speed it up as they're coming. Something that we were doing this winter is we were pendulum A-rigs. So as it got colder,
yeah, I saw that.
They did not want to come off the bank. So as we started, what we were doing is we were taking an A-rig. And I always say there's two baits that really just has more drawing power, I think, than any other bait out there. And it's any, hard swim bait that's 9 inches or above and an A-rig. And those are going to get bass's attention, and no matter how cold the water is. So what we were doing is we were going into places where we knew they had enough room for 3, 4, 5s and up to be able to hide in rocks or brush piles or whatever. And we'd take that bait, and as you'd come down, you'd hit that 30-foot mark, and maybe one would follow, and 35, you'd pick up 3 more, and 45, you'd pick up 4 more. And then by the time that it got literally under the boat, if you moved that bait away from that bottom more than 3 foot, those bass would just turn away, because as they were cold in that 37-degree water to 42-degree water, they did not want to come off that bank. They did not want to get far away from it. Their strike zone, their comfort was there. And so, but they would follow down the bank until you got them, 35, 40 foot of water, and they'd just be a group of 8 or 12 of them just down there. And finally, what would happen is you just barely moving that. And I mean, when I say barely, I mean just barely. And finally, one of them would be like, hey, I'm going to stick my face on this thing. And it'd be like, dunk. You'd feel them, and you just bring them straight up. But like you said, when they're active, when the water temp's up there around that 48 to 52, every once in a while, you'd get what I'd call a rocket. And so a rocket would be that one, as you're coming down, that just at 100 miles an hour, he tests that bait. That's a smart bass. And what he does is he's testing that bait. He is running up to it to see if it runs away. And if you're not sitting there ready for that, and you don't give that rod a jerk, he won't bite. But as soon as you give that rod a jerk and reel, he'll go smash it. So it's Forward Facing Sonar for me in that aspect has been a really interesting wintertime learning tool.
Yeah, that's what I said, is like with that technology, I've learned more about bass behavior, and you'll hear about other people talk about too, than I've ever learned just from reading books or anything else. When you actually get to see it in real life, see how they react to different baits, even different colors. If you have an active school, switch your colors up. You'll see how they react to different colors.
Yeah.
So,
all right, geeks, listen. I know we've done all the talking. I don't know. Am I froze up?
Huh. I don't know if it's me or you.
Well,
my screen, you're fine.
I can't even move my comments. Let me. Wow. All right, geeks. If you guys have been commenting, I want to say I am super sorry. Here, let me jump over here. My fingers ain't working.
That happens. Yeah, the last comment I see was at 26.
There we go. Yeah, I don't understand. That is just weird. Okay, maybe. There we go. Say something just to make sure you're. Yeah, I see you moving. All right, let me get back to the comments. I am sorry, guys. The comments literally froze up. So, all right. So, listen, I'm only going to be on here for a little bit. Guys, just to let you know, we are going to do more live streams. There's some stuff coming down the road. We're kind of hanging in there right now. We're really going to do a lot of on the water live stuff. In the future, we were testing that earlier. We got you, Mike. Appreciate you, brother. Sorry about the lockup there. I don't know what was going on. So,
yeah. So I think you run into some issues that I have when, like, some of your lakes is just the reception. Just
it's awful.
It's
hard. So that's why I went out and got me a
Did you get the Starlink?
Starlink. I got the mobile, so I like, and we tested it on some of the worst reception lakes around here that you could possibly get.
Yeah.
But geeks, throw your questions at us now. We're going to
I know
hang in
there's
here
one
for about another 10 minutes.
Yeah. I know that there's one kayak angler out there, Fluke Master. He has Starlink on the back of his kayak. So that's a lot of electronics, a lot of backup. IT experience, turn it off, then back on again.
Yeah.
First I tell you, make sure it's plugged in before you start doing all that, because a lot of times it's you got unplugged.
Look, they're taking shots at our IT experience.
That's right. That's right.
My IT experience is turn it off and then turn it back on again. That's what I did. I don't know why it was froze up there. It was just kind of being a pain in the butt.
All right. So I'll throw one out to the commenters out there. So we're talking springtime fishing. So you guys comment, what is your favorite springtime bait to throw?
Yes.
If you only had one bait to throw to go out to catch you some bass, what's that one bait that you're going to throw? Now they're all coming back in.
Yeah, unplugging. Wait 5 minutes. It's only 30 seconds. You only have to wait 30 seconds. Well, 60 seconds. 60
all right. See, Mike's after my own heart right there.
Yeah. That's funny. Jerk bait. Yeah, I do love the jerk bait bite. I think you, Mike, you're gonna love the jerk bait pattern video. We go real in depth on that. A few fish catches on it. Brian, he's down in the FL. He likes the chatterbait. Chatterbait for me is one that I don't get to throw a whole lot in the clear water. It's a springtime bait. When they get back right before they move up, it comes down like you can catch some good ones out of the trees where they're staging with a good half-ounce chatterbait. Or you can throw an A-rig, and you know me, I'm glutton for punishment and waiting on my shoulder replacement surgery. So I'm throwing the A-rig.
Well, I
can catch 5 at a time.
And you got to throw those deep diving crankbaits too. So that's really good for the arm too.
Chris says the chatterbait.
Yeah. Oh, Chad Hoover's who he's talking about there.
I seen him out there fishing the other day.
So, the chatterbait for me, again, it depends on which lake I'm going to. If I'm going to, my big lake here, chatterbait, I don't have hardly any luck on that. There's just it's too clear. It's too clear, not enough grass. Half the times if I do try to throw it, I'll get it caught up in a dang cedar tree and you can't get it out.
Well, I'll tell you a bait that I cannot wait to throw this spring when it gets about that time. So, everybody knows the grass piece. And the grass piece is kind of like a spinnerbait, chatterbait, combined, but it's really designed, it's got that narrow head.
Yeah.
It was really designed for grass. It'll come through some wood, but, it doesn't have the protection of the hook with the wire that the side piece from Pulse Fishing has. Now that's got more of a wood style spinnerbait head design. And so that's one that I'm really, because I'd already fished it a little bit in the fall and it worked pretty good, but I was already a little late. They were getting a little too deep into the wood. And a little too cold that, they wasn't active enough. But man, I think that's going to be a bait that they just haven't seen when they get on those last, deep areas before they pull up and, spawn, running that through some of those laydowns where they're staging. I think is going to be incredible. Now Brent is a bank angler. Square bill is the only crankbait you need, brother, other than a lipless too.
Dude, I love a good square bill bite too. So
I love a good lipless bite, but now my lipless bite is probably different than everybody else's. There's a few lakes where when the water, if the water's still down, you get some rains. They've got a few flats. that are flatter than most of the places. And man alive, you talk about a great, you just throw it out there. Got to use a certain bait that's got a good wide nose on it, because you want it to dig the mud and dig down. And if there's pieces of wood, if that nose acts like a square bill, and it's going to pull right across. And gosh, man, I only get to do that about every 3-4 years, but man, it's such a fun bite. This is the first spring. I'll be able to get an early spring start, so open to suggestions, but looking at using new line through shadtron. Now, I have not seen that bait. A line through is great, and it depends on the type of lake. I like if the shadtron. Do you know anything about the shadtron?
A little bit. It's just one of those soft plastic baits that's out there. It's just the way it's designed. Just the company call it a shadtron.
Now, for me, that's a bait that I like around docks, over top of grass. That's a shallower bait. So I'm going to look at when those bass are up in that 10 foot or less sort of deal. That's when I'm going to throw that type of bait. Mm-hmm. Hey man, I do love me a spinnerbait bite too.
Too. My PB is on a spinnerbait, so I'm never gonna knock a spinnerbait.
Listen, I'm old school on that now. That's I tell everybody all the time. I think my first 5 baits is you had to throw a popper somewhere along the way, a Texas rig worm, a spinnerbait, a jerk bait, and a jig. I'm like, if that wasn't my first 5 baits, when the salamanders are popping out, hey, you know what?
Zoom lizard.
Bucktail, and I don't know if you know this. So the Appalachian Mountain is home to a very diverse salamander population, one of the most diverse in the world, actually. And one of the things, this thing has froze up again. It worked, but it's froze up on my side. And they have these. I looked them up. I don't remember what the actual name is, but I looked them up, and they are called sourmanders. And apparently the bass do not like them, but they will try to mate with your Cinco when you're throwing it. I mean, they'll wrap their bottom legs around it, and they won't let go. So every once in a while, you'll be like, what is that? And then you'll pull it up, and there it is, just making sweet love. So, you're like, get off that.
I haven't had that with the Cinco. I've had it with frogs before. I've had a frog try to mount my frog before,
Hey, you was talking about topwater. This is one in clear water. I was going to ask you if you tried this before. When they get to where they're up on the beds, especially if they're around some wood, have you thrown a frog? Because it is deadly.
Yep. I love throwing a frog, and because then I could just sit there above it and just kind of just twitch it a little bit, and they go nuts. They're like, that thing's going to try to eat my. Nope, they'll come up and destroy it. That's what I'm hoping to get on. I got my frog rod tied up, ready to go. So
I don't know what's going on here. I'm trying, guys.
He's
truly trying.
Corey Bucktail. He's in that southern PA area, so he fishes a lot of those southern Pennsylvania.
Well,
you frozen up.
Yeah, won't let me do nothing. Anyway, Brent says, I really like to try that side piece you showed in that last video. That is a good one, especially if you got a little bit of brush in there. I just love when it warms up enough for power fishing. I agree with that.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'm not frozen. The lakes don't freeze here. Like there's 1 or 2 in the mountains that'll freeze up on the Virginia side, because for you guys that don't know, I live right on the border of I have no idea what this thing is doing. I don't know why it's going crazy. Most of my water's less than 20 feet.
Yeah, I think
I'll be honest with you, like that would scare me. Like I tell people all the time, like I know where I'm going. I know I'm over 50, 90, 100, 200 feet all the time. So, I don't worry about it much. But, man, you get down in them lakes, even down in the Tennessee River, I mean, if you don't
You'll
pay
hit a
attention to
stone.
your buoys now, there's a rock cropping sticking up and,
Yeah.
a sandbar, and you done had a bad day. All right, gentlemen, all you geeks out there, again, go make sure you check out Fishing the DMV. Make sure you go check out the Bass Cast with Brian. And again, listen, listen, I tell you all the time, I will never judge you on how you fish. Fishing is fun. Keep it fun. Fish the way you want. Fish the way you enjoy it. That's what I'm going to do.
Exactly.
And because I have an opinion and sometimes voice it on Brian's, that is never, nor should it ever imply that I don't agree with what you and how you like to fish, especially for fun. We talk a lot about tournament fishing, and again, I don't really care much about tournament fishing. I love to watch it. I suck at it, but so I look at it as I'm just a fan. But I'm going to let Mr. Trevor sit here and shout himself out, and then we're going to get out of here because my wife's watching, probably wondering what the damn time I'm getting in there.
That's my wife's thinking the same thing. She's like, kids are out of the house. Where are you at? All right. So again, I do like the kayak tournament fish. I do like to fish. And again, like Geek said, if you love the outdoors and you love fishing, do your thing, but don't hate on others.
Yeah. We got more in common.
Thing that you like.
We got more in common
than we have. Yeah. You can follow me along again at Trevor Wagner. Make sure you spell it right because it's ER. There is an OR guy out there. He spells it wrong. So follow me at Trevor Wagner. I do Tackle Tip Tuesday. I do a faith drop on Wednesday. So the guys that are out there on the Christian side, I do a Bible study every Wednesday. And then Friday, I do the Before the First Cast. So make sure you follow along. See you guys out on the water. And that's all I got. Thanks for having me on, Geek.
That's it, man. Anytime. Hopefully, like I said, we'll do these. And, one of the things, like, I don't want to tell too many people this, but like once a week, I want to do a live. We've kind of already done it, the Lunker Lunch. We'll get Trevor on there to kind of roast me as I'm fishing. I've already got some pros lined up to make fun of me while I'm out there fishing. And, just understand that the possibility of me getting hung up and you seeing butt crack is very high when I start doing that. So just saying, it happens. A-rigs and trees and, jerk baits and trees and spinner baits and trees. And,
yeah, but when you're live, you can't do the bleeping out.
Yeah. So
you get an A-rig hung up in a tree. Let's just say I'm asking the Lord for forgiveness later.
Yeah. We may put a not for children disclaimer, even though I try to not let my sailor potty mouth come out very much, but sometimes it happens. I do tend to partake in the verbiage a little bit once in a while. But anyway, all right, that's enough. Geeks, love you all. Appreciate you. Be part of the 100% Watch Squad. Listen, all you got to do is watch the videos when they come out. We don't do, for those of you that are new here, we don't do memberships because we want to include all of you geeks. We believe everything that we share, you shouldn't have to pay for. So we keep things free. Now, that does mean we will run some ads. So the biggest thing is, hey, if you're going to buy something, go to Tackle Warehouse, man. Use our links down in the description. Don't cost you a dime, and it's the best way to support the channel if you want to. If you don't, it's cool too. I won't be mad. But be part of that 100% Watch Squad. You geeks rock. Love you all.